Hi there. Hi. Welcome to the Arnett Show live. We're live on Facebook. We will be answering your questions, but we also might not be actually paying attention to you as you're watching this. Right now, what you're witnessing is the pre-show where this is where we're getting set up. I'll lean back so you can see all of my beautiful body.
Yep.
We're getting ready. This is my boy Kyle Ralph.
What's up, y'all?
He's quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. And
no, it's for the San Diego Fleet, Aaron.
Oh, he's new quarterback for the San Diego Fleet. So happy to have you on NFL Talk today. You know, I guess why I got my jersey ready to go. But anyway, seriously speaking, this is the Arnett Show Live, the first ever Arnett Show Live on Facebook. There's so many cords around here.
There's a lot of cables, and just the way that the couch is situated with the camera angle too.
Yeah.
You guys might be in for a treat. So
yeah, it'll be good. Like overall grand scheme of things will be good. So don't worry about it. In case you were wondering, hey, are you going to be able to play your music and stuff on here? Yeah, of course I am. Except now when I talk about that, it went away. Oh, here it is. Look, this is my favorite one. Yeah, that's the one that I just realized that Kyle can't hear this. But it is happening.
A little bit, I could. And by turn it up a little bit, I mean turn it up all the way. But
yeah. But anyway, there is music happening, believe me. All right, go away. Okay. So anyway, it's called Boss Jock Jr. It's really interesting. So this is the pre-show. I'm going to leave you with Kyle for just a couple minutes while I go and prepare the coffee for us. And he's going to talk to you, and he's going to tell you everything that's on his mind. And then we'll get back and we'll start the show.
All right. So what's happening on my mind right now is Aaron's cats, Marty and Luna, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Marty and Luna. They're hanging out, and he's telling me about how much of a nuisance they're going to be. But honestly, I may encourage them to come sit with us, and with us, I mean with me primarily. Also, just a forewarning, this microphone is really sensitive, so as you can hear me just touching the microphone makes some sounds. So on behalf of the Arnett Show at Real Aaron Arnett, just know that we're working on it, and we didn't have what's it called, a mic stand, and so that would have solved that problem, but I would have actually had to like lean forward. But we're all about relaxation and convenience. So for right now, if you guys hear that, we apologize ahead of time, but if not, that's okay too. Aside from that, Aaron texted me and he was like, hey, what do you want to talk about? And I was like, the only thing that I know that I want to talk about is the AAF, the Alliance of American Football. And it is primarily because of at the Arnett Show that I'm even been turned on to the AAF. And I'm pretty certain that I'm going to be getting some AAF swag, and I'm hoping that it doesn't stick around for just one season and then calls it quits like the old XFL. I hope it actually does something. And so I'm excited. We'll go more into detail about that later. But for right now, I'm pretty excited to actually talk about that as a show. So it'll be a good time. Keep going. Got it. Other than that, Aaron's apartment is just beautiful. For those that are watching in live, it's a sweet, humble abode. I think Brianna's done a really good job at decorating with little wall art and pictures and things. I'll give her 100% of the credit. And as Aaron nods and agrees. So, but yeah, as questions come in, feel free to type them up. And questions about me, questions about Aaron, questions about the Arnett Show, questions about yourself. If you've got stuff you want to talk about, then feel free to bring it in. Rebecca Betrago, what's up? I haven't seen you in like forever. I'm pretty confident the last time that I saw you, we talked about me getting some tamales, and that was like in December. And I don't remember getting some tamales, and I'm a little sad, but that's okay. Aside from that, there's something else that I was going to say. Oh, we'll introduce me. Hola. We'll introduce me. I'm a worship pastor, so at some point, if you want to ask questions about music and worship and the church, feel free. That's okay too. Other than that, what else do I want to talk about?
What I'm doing right now is making it so you can hear
Oh, Aaron's helping me so that way I can also hear myself, because when he played that intro music, I couldn't, and so we'll see. Come visit us. We got you with the tamales. Yes, and amen. I will definitely have to make that an appointment, and we'll see what happens. I'm very much about tamales. So if anybody else watches and goes back to the beginning of this and is like, wow, tamales, Kyle loves his Mexican food, that's also 100% true. But also Rebecca Petrago makes some of the best tamales in the entire world. So just so you guys are aware, they're phenomenal. And I can't say the absolute best because I've not had all of the tamales in the world. And so just as a precursor, it's let me put these ones on. I'm gonna set the mic down for you. Oh, he's getting it set up. Oh, the ones he's wearing currently are for me. Got it. This is gonna be a good time. Perfect. Which one's right? Red.
Okay, so I am back. Does red mean left?
I thought red meant right.
That's what I thought too, because that's what I never know, but I plug it in as red meaning right.
See, I understand it, but then there's another part of me that's like, why wasn't right or white right? Just for rhyming sake?
It could go either way.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to test the fact that we can actually hear ourselves talking
Can
on
you hear
here.
me? Yeah, I'm saying words and the waveforms are going.
We got waveforms, people.
We got waveforms and music ready to go. And
okay, so now I want you guys to understand something right now. What you're seeing right here on Facebook, as of right now, as of up to 6 minutes 52 seconds on the program, is exclusive content that you're not going to get on the actual podcast. People who only hear the audio are not going to. They're not going to hear this.
They're not going to know.
They're not going to know that any of this happened. They're going to get in their car. They're going to get the notification on their thing that says, "Oh, the Arnett show's here. Gosh, I'm so tired. I need to turn that off." So I stopped getting those notifications. But then they'll be like, you know what? I'm bored. I'm on a plane. I'm going to listen to it. And then they're going to realize that, and they're never going to realize that they missed exclusive content that you're getting right here on Facebook. So this is the first ever exclusive Arnett show featuring Kyle Ralph, featuring Facebook Live. And I think we're just about ready to go. Can you just do a little testy test for me?
Test. Allison says she hears us, so that's good. Rebecca, if you're still there, which I think you are, you can still hear us, I hope. I mean, you heard me talk about tamales, so that's good. Because there's nothing more important than tamales, apparently. Well, actually, that's a lie. One of my favorite Mexican food restaurants in Hanford right now is this place called El Tarasco, and they have this thing called Chipotle chicken burrito, and oh my Lanta, it's divine. It's got this spicy thing going. It's super creamy. The burrito itself is just a big burrito. They have a plate, you can get the Chipotle chicken plate, but I haven't gotten that yet.
Can you hear yourself okay?
Yeah, I can.
All right.
Only in my left ear, though.
Well, I can't do anything about that.
That's fine.
But okay, as long as you can hear yourself okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you very well.
All of these red buttons are volumes for you. In case you were interested.
Good.
So those are for you. And if you guys are ready on Facebook Live, I think we are ready. Let me just do one little test here.
Dude, I love your intro music, by the way. It's so good. I don't know if you guys appreciate it as much as I do.
All right, we are set. We are ready to go. Kyle can hear himself, so he's handling the mic well. Before we get going, what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about AAF.
AAF.
For sure.
And
that's as far as I was aware of.
Okay, AAF. We'll do being a worship pastor guy.
Yeah, we can do being a worship pastor.
Do you want to talk about losing your job as another kind of guy?
Oh, dude, actually, I'm down to talk about losing your job because it's not fun. But even through the process, God still made himself known. So.
Absolutely. And we've talked about having a dream job and then losing it. And I don't know if that was necessarily your dream job, but we'll start talking about that. All right. So we are going to get going, and we're going to do our best to not make little red lines happen on that recording over there. But we're going to do it after a few seconds of silence so I can play that little theme song. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, and hope you sleep well. This is the Arnett Show, episode 15. And just like every episode we have here on the Arnett Show, it is a very special episode today. My good buddy joining me today is the man who I've been a pirate with before.
We've been pirates together.
We've been pirates together. And actually, that's how we met. We met when we were both pirates. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
But today, it is the Arnett Show. It's episode 15. I can't believe we made it. That's, that's 3 sets of 5. So I'm excited about that. But seriously, so excited to have you.
15 episodes, man. Congratulations. As the first person to be on episode 15 with you, let me congratulate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot,
You're welcome.
actually. And so we're sitting here today on my couch, recording this a little bit differently than we normally do. Normally, I'm sitting at a table. I've got a mic stand. I'm feeling good. I've got it set up like, one quarter of the way of that I used to do radio with the setup. The mic is holding itself up. I'm not holding it. But today I'm holding it, and we're actually recording this live on Facebook as we speak. So this is like a whole experience, an audio visual experience. But if you're only hearing this on the audio podcast, then thank you so much for downloading it. And I want to say thank you so much to you, the listener, because as of recording this, we have surpassed 1,000 downloads.
Really?
Yes, we have. And that deserves a round of applause. Whoa, 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 whoa. I said a round of applause. Thank you so much.
I have to do a chest clap so I don't mess with the microphone.
Thank you so much. I've actually seen a lot of, I didn't notice it. And then if you listened to a couple episodes ago, Aaron Abadia was on the program, and he's a super audio technical type guy. And he mentioned about how he was helping his pastor with his microphone, and he got a lapel mic and he kept clapping in front of it, messing it up. And then I noticed that people are always doing that kind of stuff on TV or like touching their lapel mic or being like, oh, like God just really touched me. And messing up the microphone. And so it's nice, but I'm just like, hey man, don't touch the microphone.
My pastor's been doing this thing where he'll fiddle with the back of his ear or something. And I think it might just be the microphone placement. He's just uncomfortable with it. And so he'll touch it, but then it'll make that sound. And then I'm like, okay, Peter.
Is that his name?
Yeah, his name's Peter.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you were making a reference to Peter of the Bible.
No. His
some
name's
sort of
actual
backhand
Peter.
thing.
Yeah, no.
So microphones. I wasn't planning on talking about this at all. Today we're going to talk about the Alliance of American Football.
Yes.
And we will also talk about sorry, I just heard a neighbor yelling
crazy
outside.
Neighbors.
Yeah.
We can talk about crazy neighbors.
I should probably close the door, but
the cats are enjoying the fresh air.
Yeah, they really are. We could also talk about maybe funny technical audio-ish stuff. We both have a little bit of background. Kyle was a film major kind of guy. And so we'll talk about your story a little bit because I think that's interesting. And
thanks.
I always like to see how, like the Bible says, I don't know where exactly, but somewhere in Proverbs of the man makes their little plans, but the Lord determines his steps.
Bro, seriously.
And so it seems like Kyle and I have similar stories in the fact that we had these, plans for our lives. And then God was like, no, actually I have a plan for your life.
Wait, hold on. Whatever you had going on, just stop.
Yeah.
I've got an idea for you.
Stop doing that thing. That's obviously not where you're supposed to
obviously
be.
Wrong.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And if you're seeing this live on Facebook right now, the Super Bowl has not happened yet.
No.
But if you're listening to this on the audio podcast, man, I just can't believe that team ended up winning.
Oh my God, dude, that play in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
Coming in clutch, bro.
Yes. Fourth quarter, not much time left to go. And I can't believe that he had the ball and he went.
And then he went.
The whole thing. The whole thing.
That was a great
crowd went wild.
Great show.
And I couldn't believe that foul ball that was called though.
Oh man, I know. And then it went through the hoop, and I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know what you guys think about Tom Brady after that game and his performance that he had.
There was a couple moments that Jared Goff though,
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
He did it, and I think that both teams are just proud to have been there.
Yeah,
and to have played their hearts out.
They sweated, they worked,
they
swat.
ran,
they swat. Excuse me.
Yeah,
sounds awful.
They swat.
Yeah, They did their thing.
Can I tell you something? I have a weird thing about English. I'm very particular about speaking right. I don't like it when people say things like supposedly and that kind of stuff.
Or revelations.
Oh my gosh. I talk a lot about on this podcast about how I get why the world acts a certain way, but what frustrates me is when Christians act a certain way.
Oh, dude.
One thing that frustrates me is when Christians will say revelations. Because really all it takes is reading the word once in your Bible.
It takes getting to that book
and
even
just
opening up the table of contents.
Yeah, and just look at the letters that are in that word. There is no S at the end.
There's none.
And I get it. Like if you just got saved, if you just went to Billy Graham's dead, but if you just went to like a Greg Laurie or something, whatever, and you just got saved and you're calling it revelations, that's, you know what? I give you 9 months.
Yeah.
You got 9 months. That's in that amount of time.
Pregnancy.
Yeah, that's the Christianity.
That's the Christian pregnancy.
Yeah.
After that, we've got to start weaning you off.
Yeah. After that, there's no S in Revelation.
Yeah.
There's only 3 Johns.
No, there's 3. Wait.
Yeah, there's 3, and then there's like the Gospel of John.
Oh yeah. There's John, then 1 John, 2 John, 3 John.
Yeah, and actually, it took me quite a while to realize there was a 3rd John.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Did you just like skip over because the page stuck to it?
I honestly think that's what happened.
Really?
Yeah, because growing up, I always had the Bibles that had like the thinner pages in them.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that the pages got stuck together, and I just never noticed that it was there until I was like 25.
Let me ask you this. It's not a crazy big issue, but why in the heck were the pages of the Bible so stinking thin?
I think it's so you can get more pages in like a small space.
So the book looks like it's, only 4 inches tall instead of like 12 inches tall. Something like that?
Well, I really think it's because if you have the Bible in a good enough size font, there's gonna be like over 1,000 pages.
Well,
no
it's already like at a 3-point font, maybe 5-point font.
Are you talking like? No, I would say it's like a 12-point font normally.
Is it? No.
Because are you talking about like when you go on like custom ink and try to make a shirt and it's like 3? Because that'll take up the whole shirt.
No, definitely not like that.
Okay, you're talking actual like 3. No, yeah. Sorry. Our laughter is, and nobody can see this, but there's a cat using the facilities right in front of us as we're recording this.
This is my favorite, by the way.
But anyway, I think the Bible is
we just leaned in
is in those thin sheets because there's just so many pages.
Mm-hmm.
But what I don't understand is I've seen in some of older churches and even not so old churches who are just like more traditional, they'll have like that giant Bible sitting up in the front. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the one that's been at the church since 1890, and they use it because it's more holy than your ESV, whatever you got.
Yeah,
that one.
But I don't know if they ever actually like read it. It's just a display item. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, it's like they'll only read it because it's for like communion or it's like baptism day. And they have their whole like ordeal going on, and so they're going to bring out the big Bible, the big Bible,
right? I mean, I've only ever seen it on display, and it's usually like what happens is like something needs to happen in front, like the kids are coming up to do like a special song or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they come up and they're like, "Oh gosh, who put this stupid Bible here? Somebody move this off the stage."
Yes.
And it's So I don't know. It's weird, and. Yeah, people actually think that way. I don't, but people do. Anyway, we got sidetracked. I don't even remember what we were talking about before we got talking about Bible print size. Oh, me doing weird things with words.
Christian people saying revelations.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say, though, what I was really going to get into is that I confuse myself with things like, let's say like you have the word teach, and then you have the word taught, right? But then when I hear somebody say reach and then reached, my mind immediately thinks that they're saying the word wrong and that it should be rot. Like reach. You got teach, taught, reach, rot.
I mean, if you're going to say it right next to each other, sure.
It confuses me.
I'm sorry.
Because I'm so used to judging books by their cover.
that I really like judging books.
I'm always listening for I guess when people will say words wrong, and that's not right. It's just I guess how I am.
It's just what happens.
And so when people are like, "Oh, I catched the ball," I'm like, "No, you caught it." I'm always listening for that. And it's like, "Oh, he taught me how to do this," and I'm like, "No, he taught you."
Or
But
when people say like, "I seen them do this."
Yeah, same kind of thing. But then when I hear somebody say something like "reached," that's actually the right word.
Yeah.
But my mind, like, it's like a false alarm because I'm thinking like, no. There's that each should never have an ed at the end of it. It should be ought.
It ought to ought.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is it octopuses or octopi?
I definitely have to say octopi because octopuses sounds vulgar, and I don't want to, have people running around saying that.
Yeah. Apparently that's the right way to say it, but I'm not going to say it again.
Pie?
Pusses.
That's unbelievable.
Octopuses is like the correct form. It has something to do with Latin and Greek, I think.
Okay. Well, they didn't know the repercussions of that when they made the word.
No.
So before we stray off too far today, I guess we'll keep on topic a little bit and get to the thing that I said we were going to talk about, which is a little bit of Kyle's story. And I guess I'll this is going to be like one of those movies where you start in the beginning. I was actually just reading a book about this. I was reading Matt Chandler's Explicit Gospel. Have you ever read that book?
No, but I saw it on your table and I was interested.
I've been talking
about it before.
I've been talking about it on the show, and I don't know. I was going to talk about it this week, but we'll see what happens by the end of these 45 minutes or whatever. But he talks about how in the Bible at a certain point it's kind of like it starts how movies will start, like where you're like right in the middle of the action at the beginning of the movie, and then you're like, oh my gosh, how's this gonna work out? And then it's like, and like the rest of the movie is like building up to that thing. So I don't remember exactly like which part of the Bible he was talking about when he was doing that, but that's how I'm gonna tell your story today.
Perfect.
And so I don't really remember specifically meeting you, like the day we met. But the thing that I know for certain is that we were ever involved with each other because of a wonderful little play called The Pirates of Penzance.
Pirates of Penzance.
We were pirates.
We were the best looking pirates, I'd have to say.
I would say so. And I think that, I mean, I don't know for sure because I've never talked to any of those people really ever since the play ended.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that you and I are the only ones who grew beards for real after that.
I think so.
Because a lot of us, here's what happened. Well, first I should back up and say, if you're from another part of the world where your school districts don't give a rip about dress codes, the school district that we grew up in gave a lot of rips about dress codes. And in fact, they would hate if you had ripped pants. That was like sent home immediately. But another one of the things that you couldn't do is that you couldn't have facial hair.
Other than a mustache. You could have a mustache.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
There's a couple of guys at school who grew like the dirtiest stashes, and it was like, it's gross, but I respect you for trying.
So weird.
Yeah.
I forgot that you could have mustaches. I'm actually remembering a guy that was in my graduating class who he was the only guy who had a mustache.
Good for him.
And you thought that he was like a teacher, the day that he like it really came into fruition. Anyway, there was one day, just an example of this dress code thing. I never ever got dress code in my whole life, and people like this dress code, if you're not from the area, is like it's starting to be like more lenient now because they're going the way of the devil. But they're they like you couldn't have sideburns below your earlobe.
Yeah.
And so I that was like my one rebellion thing in school was like I was going to have these sideburns, man. Sideburns of the 70s. And after I graduated, I had such stupid sideburns that I can't believe that I ever had. They were so stupid. And one time when I still worked at KMJ, there Chris Daniel, who's a host on there, he said it on the air actually. I was filling in producing, and he said that I had mutton chops that looked like, what president was it? Taft? Or one of the old presidents from like the 1800s had, I got it like Aaron Burr, or I don't know, something.
Just the nastiest chops.
Yeah, just so disgusting. Like they stuck out further than they were like long on my face. So
no.
yeah, like looking back, I don't know why I ever thought, like at the time I was like, oh yeah, these are really cool. But now,
I'm so cool. Look at me and my sideburns that go 3 inches off my face.
yeah, it was incredible. Looking back, I don't know why I ever did that.
Nice.
But anyway, in high school, I did actually have sideburns that before they got too long, I think they actually looked okay. But one day they actually went like a quarter inch past my earlobe, and they made me go home.
Did they really?
They made me go home and shave them.
No way.
So that's how strict they were.
Good
but
times.
All of that to say that in Pirates of Penzance, the big like, oh wow, we're so lucky we can do this thing that happened was they were like, okay, for these 2 weeks of the play, you can grow your beard out. And so I think all of us tried to, but I certainly couldn't.
Off. No, I think I shaved because it didn't look good at all. But I do remember like Anthony Tadeo, I think, grew his out a little bit. Tad definitely grew his out a little bit.
And I don't think any of those guys, which they're not listening to this, I don't think either of those guys can grow a beard now either. But yeah. Sorry if you are listening.
Sorry.
Guys. But yeah, so we did that, and I still have my sword.
Do you?
By the way, I do.
No.
Yeah, that was the other thing. We could grow beards, but they're like, you got to turn in these swords, and I did not turn in the sword, and I hold on to it this day still as a souvenir to like be like, hey, I was in a musical.
I did that.
Yeah.
So to go into this, I didn't know Aaron. I was just this punk little freshman coming into high school. And I see this big guy. This was back before Aaron lost the equivalent weight of a human person. And everybody, the way that we all knew him was by the name Chocolate Thunder. And like there would be chants and cheers for Chocolate Thunder. And I was like, this dude's super rad. He's got a funny name, and I appreciate that. But there was one specific moment at the beginning of the show where the pirates are behind. They have this huge like ship thing on the stage, and there's a door in the middle of it. And so at the beginning, the pirates are supposed to come out and do their piratey thing. And there was one performance where the door just wouldn't open, and we weren't able to get out of that part of the ship. And then Aaron was right there in the front, and he just like punched it open, and like pretty sure something broke. I'm not 100% sure, but he definitely like punched his way through, and then we were able to get out and like actually do the show.
I actually don't remember that.
You don't?
No.
Oh, dude, that is ingrained in my mind.
Also, you can hold the microphone like a little bit closer to your face. But
okay.
No, too close.
Too close?
Yeah,
okay.
Right there. Perfect.
Right
So, I don't remember that. I barely remember even having to hide under there.
Really?
What I do remember though is that everyone was really big on like, you got to do this show exactly the same way every night. It's a new audience every night, and yada 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 yada. I can't imagine actually being on Broadway and
so stressful.
doing shows for like years on. I mean, The Lion King has been on for like 25 years on Broadway. I'm sure that some of the actors, if not all of them, have changed, but a lot of them probably did it forever. But anyway,
That's a really good point, because you hear people complain about the monotony of a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
And it's like you're doing the literal exact same thing multiple times a day.
I've been singing Circle of Life for 57 years.
I started out as Simba, and now I'm Rafiki. I changed shows. Oh no.
So anyway, they were like, you got to do this the same way every night. And there's a scene in Pirates of Penzance, which I doubt anybody listening to this has ever seen that show. It's a great show, but it's just not super common or popular these days. But you do see it every now and then when I go to little cutesy towns. Every so often they will have a production of Pirates of Penzance.
Like the
actually,
local theater troupe or the local opera troupe.
Yeah. I actually, a couple of years after we did it, I went and saw it in Salt Lake City.
Oh, nice.
They just happened to be doing Pirates of Penzance. Don't know how many of the members of the show were Mormon, but I should have asked. Sorry, I didn't. But there was a scene in the show where it was I think the dad is singing. It's like his little solo, and he's like sleeping, like he's like sleepwalking or something like that.
The Major General?
Yeah. He's sleepwalking, and I don't remember what the song is about, but for some reason all of us as pirates were like creeping up behind him.
No, we were police officers at that point, because we were in the ensemble, and we were then the police, and then we were creeping into the house, right?
I feel like we were dressed as pirates for this part, but I don't know.
Oh,
it was
right.
dark. It was
because
dark.
they had the fog rolling in on the
Yes,
stage, and we
yeah.
were like crawling under the. I remember that now.
Yeah, and so me and at least the guy, I don't remember who, if you were in like my line or whatever, but we did it started really basic. Like we just be kind of pushing each other and like catching the other and whatnot. Like
because
the,
we were
the
walking in
first
slow
night,
motion.
yeah, the whole scene was in slow motion. So
Yes.
the whole scene was in slow motion, and we were just kind of like really careful, kind of playing. Other cat is using the facilities right now, by the way, and we were really careful the first night or two.
Mhm.
But then after that, we just kept building upon it, and it kept getting more and more ridiculous.
It just was. It
And
was
we-
obnoxious.
We were like looking up like WWE moves. And we were like slow motion doing that kind of stuff during the thing, and I just like kept upping it every night until the end. I literally think I rock bottomed. The guy's name was Eric Vu. I literally think I gave him a rock bottom, which is a wrestling move from Dwayne the Rock Johnson. And so yeah, it was incredible.
Yep.
So anyway,
That's
all
it.
of that to say, I don't know. Tell us a little about yourself, and where you came from, where you're going.
Where I came from was my mom, and where I'm going is I'm just kidding. No, so I was born in the great city of Clovis, California. I know there's other Clovises out there. Clovi, excuse me. So I was born at Clovis Community Hospital at 9 something in the morning, and
Today?
No. This is October 16th, 1992.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I was born in Clovis, and then my family moved around a little bit. My dad was a worship pastor at the time, so we kind of bounced around to a couple different places, all before kindergarten. And then by the time I hit kindergarten, I was back in Fresno. So we lived in Watsonville. Apparently, we were in Merced for a hot minute, and then we were also in Napa, and then we came back to Fresno. But that's where I was. That's my pre-K days.
Nice.
It was a good time. Yeah. But after that, I grew up. Yeah, from essentially kindergarten through 12th grade, I was in Fresno, California, growing up, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just kind of did stuff because it was fun and I enjoyed it. My parents liked doing this kind of a thing. And then at a certain point, it was like 2000, end of 2000, early 2001, my parents got a divorce. And at the time I was like, oh, sweet, 2 Christmases, I get extra gifts. That's going to be awesome. Woo! It's essentially how I responded.
How old were you?
I was like 8 or 9.
Okay.
I think when that happened. Yeah. So after my parents' divorce, I had no idea what was going on. I just remember little moments. And I grew up doing all sorts of things. My dad was no longer a worship pastor at the time. My mom was encouraging me to do sports stuff. My dad was telling me to like stay focused, and it was a good time. I still did a lot of sports things, but
do sports. No, stay focused, son.
Focused on what you're good at. And I was like, I don't know what I'm good at. Sick. Okay. So I did like musicals. I did like church choirs. I stopped doing sports by the time I got into high school because I wanted to do theater, because I had the awareness enough to be like, well, I don't see myself playing volleyball in college, so I'm going to do theater instead because that sounds approachable.
You have the height for volleyball.
Yeah, I had a good time. I went to the Junior Olympics in 2008.
What the heck?
Yeah.
What? And you decided to give up on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, stay focused.
Yeah, stay focused, Kyle. So I did. We got 4th place, which was a good time out of our age group.
Out of the whole country.
Yeah.
And you decided to stop.
We played against Puerto Rico too. There's 2 different Puerto Rican teams, and we played like the better one. We almost beat them, but then we didn't, and it was sad.
Wow, that's so cool to have defeated a foreign country in volleyball.
Yeah, it was a good time. So by the time I got into high school, I focused in on theater, and within that, between my freshman and sophomore, junior, and senior year, I did this thing called the Continental Singers, which if anybody knows about that, I would be incredibly surprised. But if not, that's okay. I totally get it. It's essentially like a traveling show choir group that's all about Jesus. Excuse me. And sorry, I burped out of the microphone because I figured you guys wouldn't want to hear that.
Continue.
Okay, so it's a traveling show choir deal where we get music, skits, and like choreographed dances and stuff to these different songs. And we travel all over the world. They have the Continentals, and then they had like the international Continental singers.
This is like the Globetrotters of Christian music.
It's essentially Glee, the show Glee, but for Jesus.
Was there a kid in a wheelchair?
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately, actually, but there's a couple of guys that I toured with who were warblers.
What does that mean?
So they were like the all guys school. Did you watch the show, right?
No, I've seen the commercials.
Okay. So there's like an all guys school in the world of Glee, and their show choir group or their Glee club, they're called the Warblers.
Okay.
And there's a couple of guys that were involved with the Continental Singers who were warblers at one point in time. Anyways, irrelevant. So I did this traveling show choir thing for 3 summers in high school. And then by the time my junior year rolled around, my youth group wasn't doing live worship. And I was frustrated. And I was like, why are we just listening to a CD with the PowerPoint? This is dumb. My youth pastor, Scott, he was like, well, Kyle, if you want to start it, go for it. He didn't sound like that at all. But I was like, okay. So I didn't know how to play guitar at all, and it was awful. And he's told me now that there was times during that period of life where he would look at his wife and say, Jenny, I don't know if we'll make it through this. It was that bad.
Wow.
But I tried, man. I tried
like
real hard.
you like were almost determining his career.
Yeah. He was like that's what he's like told me, is that it was awful.
Like he gave you the guitar, but was like, are you sure you don't want to play volleyball?
Are you sure you want to stay focused on volleyball? Like, come on. So yeah, that was my intro into worship leading myself. Was in high school. There was a need and there was something in me that was frustrated. And so then I jumped in. And even before that, I remember going into like different like church camps, and there was one point where I saw the speaker on stage and I was like, I would love to do that. It was completely selfish just because I wanted the attention of a ton of people looking at me,
Right.
Yeah. So then I that was just a random connection to my life. But
well, that's why I do the podcast.
Yeah, for people to
look at me.
Look at you.
Yeah, that's why it has my name on the show.
Know, my dad has always told me that I have the face for radio, so I'm really glad we're doing this.
Well, we kind of look like brothers, so
I mean, if you're watching on the live cast right now, which if you're listening to the podcast,
there's no such thing as the live cast.
There's no live cast because it's live to you at this moment in time.
Yeah, this is after the team won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, this is after the team that. Anyways, where was I going? Senior year. So senior year rolled around, and
when did you stop going to the Mormon church?
I stopped, which is funny. I actually went to a couple Mormon dance, actually one Mormon dance, and it was like the weirdest thing. I don't remember anything other than feeling really uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, it is weird when you're the only one there without the special underwear.
Yeah, I was really sad. It was a bit. I missed out on the special underwear.
I don't think you missed out.
Dang. Okay. So yeah, senior year rolled around, and I can remember still like actively involved in my youth group, but like being just a dummy. Like I made so many bad choices when I was in high school, especially my senior year, because I remember like probably my biggest Jesus moment where I believe that like I had an actual conversion moment was my first summer doing the Continental Singers. They had said, Satan's going to want to put anything in front of you to stop you from doing the Lord's work. And so if there's anything in your life that is holding you back from fully being able to give yourself to the mission that we have this summer, like God wants to take that away from you. That's why Jesus died, was to take that sin, take that whatever is blocking that, so that way you can fully serve him. And so I remember just like weeping and crying and being like, God, I want you to take my sin from me, because I know that this is a stumbling block. I know that this is going to halt me from actually being able to do your will. And it was this weird moment where I was just kneeling and praying. And as soon as I finished praying that, I remember feeling just this weight lifting off my shoulders. And I'm not like super charismatic at all, but it was definitely like this Jesus moment where I felt a literal weight being lifted off of me. And I was like, shoot, God's awesome. Like, this is too much. And I kept weeping and crying and like snot coming out of my nose. And it was disgusting, but
That's really cool. And that was when you were part of the Continental Breakfast?
yeah, that was when I was in the Continental Breakfast, right next to the waffles and pancakes. There was Jesus right in between the waffles. And
Yeah.
It was right next to the peanut butter too. So
Yeah, and like you saw like a little trail of, there was like two like streams of syrup
yeah,
on the waffles, and
Yeah.
then the one where the one trail stopped on the waffle, that's when he was carrying
that's
you.
yes, that's so dumb. But yeah, so I had I would say my real conversion moment, and I had given my life to Christ before that and like prayed the prayer and whatever, but it wasn't until that moment where I'd really say that I was fully on board with what Jesus was doing. And so by the time I got to my senior year of high school, again, I wasn't perfect, but that was when I think I was actively sinning. Like, I actively chose to not follow God as best as I could. And I remember being so torn because my flesh and sinful side was wanting one thing, but then there was the actual Christian and like follower of Christ side that kept saying like, Kyle, like, you're being so two-faced right now. Like, you need to stop. And I didn't until I had left, because my mindset was essentially YOLO. Like, that was like my theme hashtag for senior year was hashtag YOLO, because I knew I was going to a Christian school. I knew I was going to be like going away from Fresno. And so my sinful brain was like, yeah, I'll just try it all out, because why not?
Whatever, I'm going to a Christian school next month, so
Yeah,
that's when I'll get real.
Yeah, exactly. That was legitimately my mindset. And yeah, it was bad. And when I got into college, each year God kept like chipping away at different things and allowed me to go through different experiences in order to chip away at that sinful side. And you can even ask my old roommate from college. He told me by our senior year, he was like, dude, Kyle, you are a completely different person from who you were freshman year. This just obnoxious, do everything for the attention and like super just obnoxious guy to like like still crazy and still like energetic and extroverted, but actually wanting to follow Christ and do good. And so part of that journey, I was doing my film degree at a Christian college in Southern California. I know you don't like to advertise for free,
Right.
and so I won't say the name of the college.
Well, sometimes I do like to advertise for free, but we'll save it. But before you talk about that, when did you make the decision that you wanted to do film? Because I know you said you grew up not really knowing what you wanted to do. And did you ever have like a dream job, like growing up, or was it kind of just like I don't know? And
then, I never did. I said, yeah, that's like the horrible response. Did you ever? Yeah, but no, it didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess what I'm wondering is like when in school, because they do this all the time, they'll say like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, what did you say? Because for me, the first thing I was actually just having this conversation with Brianna the other day.
Really?
I said when I was in kindergarten, actually asked me, and I said when I was in kindergarten, they asked, and I said, well, I want to be a skydiver. Because my dentist, I was always in the dentist, horrible teeth my entire life, even at age 6. And the dentist had pictures of him skydiving in his office. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And the back in those days, they were more real with you. For example, this kid was like, my mom was, maybe it was just my mom, I don't know. She was volunteering in the class. This kid, Ernest. I still remember Ernest. He was like, I want to be a butterfly. And my mom's like, look, you can't be a butterfly. Like, what do you want to do for a job, kid? Nowadays,
are you serious?
Yeah. Nowadays, we would say that was like destroying that young man's self-esteem. Listen, I've had all the self-esteem in the world at some points, and that has not helped me a single bit.
There's also reality. Like, you cannot change from a human being to a butterfly.
Yeah, you can't. And
That's impressive.
I said that I wanted to be a skydiver. not knowing that there wasn't really a lot of money in skydiving at the time. YouTube hadn't been invented yet. Nowadays, I think you probably could make money being a skydiver. But anyway, and they said, well, you can't make money being a skydiver. Like, what's a job you want to do? And I said, I don't know, president of the United States. And so I'm still hoping out for that.
I'd vote for you.
I can't apply yet because I'm not 35, but 6 years, we got 2020, 2024. Yeah, I'll be running in the 2028 election.
Okay.
So
write in, or are you going to officially put yourself down?
We'll see how big the podcast gets.
Yeah. Depending on the size of the Arnett Show.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. Episode 15, the Arnett Show, at Real Aaron Arnett, at the Arnett Show.
Yeah. And this is the official 7, 8, 9 year in advance.
2028.
I'm running for president in 2028. Make America. My slogan's gonna be "Make America Something Again." Yeah.
To answer your question.
Yeah. So when they asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up, what did you say?
I honestly don't even remember, because I had never had this goal to be that one thing. I never was like, I really want to be a fireman, or I really want to be a doctor, I really want to be a mathematician. I don't think anybody really wants to be a mathematician, but I didn't have any kind of direction. A lot of my life was just reacting to what was happening around me instead of making a plan and moving forward with it and actually trying to achieve goals. And so why I chose film was I knew that I didn't want to do theater, because the theater lifestyle was pretty crummy. You are auditioning, and when you're not auditioning, you're waitering or waitressing a restaurant, or doing anything to get some kind of work that's flexible enough for that one time you're able to actually do a show. And then you do that show for however long it is, and you may or may not get paid for that and all this stuff. And I was like, I don't want to do it. So I was like, oh, film's kind of fun. And I knew a buddy of mine who was at I advertised Biola University, the Bible Institute of Los Angeles. That's where I went to school.
It's a tax write-off for me.
Tax write-off for the Aaron Arnett.
They're a nonprofit. Well, I don't know if they're a nonprofit.
Definitely a for-profit school.
Okay, well, this is
check my tuition statements.
This is a tax write-off for me. So
yeah,
go ahead.
So I knew a buddy who was at Biola for their film school, and so I went and toured and loved it, and I just didn't know what else I wanted to do. And so Biola was the only school that I applied to, and the only school that I got into. So that was a huge victory.
Yeah, I'm sure their acceptance rate is so low, probably.
Yeah. So that's how I got to film. Was I don't want to do theater, but film's kind of interesting, and I always loved acting, so I thought that
Sorry, I was just thinking about Biola, and do you need to check my SAT? No, the only score we need to see is your credit score. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, you're not wrong. I don't think my SAT was very high, and I still got in, so praise God. So I got in there, and I wanted to do acting, and so I figured, if I learned the production side of things, like the behind the camera stuff, that might be a good way for me to get in front of the camera. And it never happened, but whatever.
Well, you're in front of a microphone right now.
I am in front of a mic, and technically I am in front of a camera, so that's kind of nice.
You made it. You've arrived. It all.
I'm just gonna go home. Aaron, thank you so much for the time here, guys. I appreciate it. I'm out.
Yep. All righty, guys. Well, thank you so much for being on the program.
Yeah,
today.
Aaron, thank you. It's been a good time. And
no, just kidding.
Yeah, that was my mindset, and so I did film school, and it was a great time, and I couldn't get away from music, and so I by my sophomore year, I had auditioned to be in a chapel band, and I was in a folk bluegrass worship band for Biola.
I saw that. I saw that on Facebook back in the day. I remember. Whatever happened to that?
So we all graduated, and so then I stopped. Yeah, that's what happened.
Irreconcilable differences.
I've actually talked to all my friends that were in the band with me, and I'm like, guys, we got to do this again. Come to my church in Hanford, and they're like, set the date, and I'm like, okay. So
that would be really cool. I would come to that.
Okay, cool. But yeah, then partway through my junior year, I started dating this gal in Fresno, and that was fun. And then also around that time, I knew I didn't want to do film anymore, but I was like, I don't want to keep going to school. So I just finished my program and graduated, which was nice. and I moved back to Fresno, not really knowing what I wanted to do, but I was like, well, I could do like church music. I could do like church media stuff. I don't know. But then after about 6 months of being back home, the girl and I broke up, but a lot of my identity was like so wrapped up in our being together and what was going to happen in the future of that. And all through even the hesitations that I had in moving forward, I still was so wrapped up in it that I just didn't know what to do. And so the pastor at the church my dad was at the time, he had suggested that I go and like just take a day, like fast if you need to, pray and ask God for the direction because he will give it to you. And I was like, okay. So I did that. I went on this like really intense hike and I was fasting that day and I thought it was a really bad idea, but I carried like 8 water bottles in this backpack that I was carrying.
Well, better than no water bottles.
Yeah, it was better than no water bottles and doing this really intense hike. But yeah, I just sat and prayed and thought of all the things that I know that I'm good at, the things that I enjoy, the things I'm not good at. And after that day, I was like, okay, maybe pastoral ministry is where I should go because I love people. I care about people. I want to see them pursue God better. And I know I could do that in any other kind of job environment, but it seemed the only logical way to go. So I started the pastoral cohort that was at our church in Fresno, and then applied for the youth pastor job at that church and became a youth pastor. And that was also like a fun job idea for me because I remember my youth pastor and his impact in my life and my desire to see like young guys not make the same mistakes I did when I was their age. And so I was really excited about that opportunity, and then did that for about a year. And then yeah, I was let go from that position, and it was hard and it was difficult, but I still have really good relationships with all the people at the church still, and I don't have any hard feelings. And I think it's been a really healthy process, unfortunate for sure, but really healthy at the same time. And it led me again to just seek the Lord and be like, all right, God, like, I don't know what you have for me. I have no idea. But I'm open and I want to be obedient to whatever that call may be. And so this position in Hanford, I was made aware of, and then a buddy of mine sent my information off to the pastor, and he emailed me and talked to me, and I was very upfront with them. I was like, hey, this is why I was let go. This is where I'm at spiritually, but I want to be open to what this is. And through those conversations, they offered me the position, and now I am the worship pastor at First Baptist Hanford in Hanford, California.
And I just think it's such a blessing. They offered you 5 times what you were making at the other church.
Almost.
I just thought that was such a cool Bentley you arrived in today to do the show.
Yeah, that Bentley, it's a church car, and so they give it to all the staff members.
You guys you guys share it. It's a
no, we each have our own Bentley.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So this one's mine that I drove out here.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
You can tell by my Apple Watch that I can drive a Bentley.
That's cool. You guys must watch a lot of Benny Hinn at that.
Oh, yeah.
at that thing. So
much.
I think it's cool just seeing, what God has done. Of course, like during this is like the funny. I look back at this. I think about this moment a lot when I got hired at the same church that Kyle has been. They've gone a different direction in from. So I get hired and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, wow, this is so amazing, man. Like, we went to high school together and we had no idea that someday that we would work at a church together. And then it was like a week later.
Yeah. Oh, guess what? I got fired.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, Aaron.
All right. See ya. Thanks for ditching me.
Yeah.
No, but, and in that time it was like, well, who knows? Have no idea what God has planned now. Kind of thought that was the plan.
Yeah.
Right. And then turns out no, that was just for a season.
Of all the Christian words, that's probably one of my least favorite. It makes sense.
It does.
But it's like my least favorite Christianese.
I hate it. I try to avoid it as much as possible, but I couldn't there. Unless somebody, I mean, we could say it's a period, but then that would be weird if you were saying like, oh, like I was just on this period in my life, and people wouldn't have the same connotation. But
it's an appropriate phrasing. It's just annoying.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, and in that time, I remember we got together and we were talking about, the next steps, and that this next
Mhm.
church had like kind of just contacted you, and we were talking about discouragement and that kind of stuff. And you asked me like, man, what do you do, when you're discouraged and you don't know what God is, doing and all that. And I just looked at you and said, I don't know.
I remember we were sitting at Starbucks.
Yeah. And it could have been at any coffee shop, really. I don't advertise for free. Who knows what shop it was at?
And by Starbucks, I meant the coffee shop.
Yeah, the local one, nonprofit. And so, yeah, and discouragement, I think for me is still, I know for me is still something that I deal with. I mean, literally, I talked about this last week on the show.
Mhm.
Every single week, I try to talk myself out of doing this podcast.
Yeah.
And I was literally like seconds away from texting you and saying, man, I ain't doing this today.
Were you really?
I really was, because I get discouraged and I look at like the amount of people that are listening to it. And some weeks it's like, woo. And some weeks it's like, eh. And I don't know. It's just a weird thing. And I want to make sure that what I'm doing through this is glorifying God as well as, juggling a million other things.
Yeah.
And so I guess all of that to ask you the question, how did the process go then, and how have you seen, I think about when I think it was Joseph in the Bible talking to his brothers after they had, gotten rid of him after his Technicolor Dreamcoat, and Egypt and like the whole world was in a famine situation, and his brothers end up coming to him not knowing it's him, and then they find out, and then they're like, oh no, he's gonna kill us. And then he says, what you guys intended for evil, God intended for good.
Yeah.
Because then Joseph was in power and he was able to, he had the visions from God or interpreted the dreams from the king to like be able to, save the whole place and his family and everything. Yeah. So like, have you seen that come together in this, or do you hate your new job?
I absolutely love my new job, Peter Anderson. No, I honestly, I think that phrasing is very appropriate. What you intended for evil, God intended for good. Not that what the other church, what they let me go for was evil, but
the devil could have turned that in. You could have gotten so discouraged that you're like, forget it, I'm never doing anything again. I'm gonna go be a film guy. Yeah, no, it
it was very appropriate because I had experienced that loss before and it was already discouraging. And in coming into this one, it was again, just, I remember, we talked about it at that time, but saying, okay, God, like, I don't know if pastoral ministry is still for me. I feel like a failure because I just got let go from that kind of position. And one of my old coworkers told me, he's like, dude, Kyle, like, don't let one thing like this deter you from doing pastoral ministry, because it could just be a place and a time. Like, it could still be for you, just not right now, or not at this church, or not doing this position. And I really appreciated that, because it definitely encouraged me to still be hopeful, to think that although I quote unquote failed at this job, right, and it wasn't a moral failing, it was just me doing work stuff that was an inconsistency, I still had this hope that God had a plan for me. I had the right kind of people in my life that were around me saying, like, no idea what God's called you to, but he still has a plan. He still is a God of, like, he's sovereign over the situation, and he's able to guide you through it. And having that kind of encouragement from the people around me helped me get through that. And then when the opportunity came, I prayed a ton about it, and I really appreciated my church for doing that, because they took their time in hiring me. It wasn't like a quick thing, like, oh, we got to get him in here and do this and do that.
We got to sign him before Hillsong does.
Gosh, seriously, they were on my email all the time. Hillsong was like, we need you, and I was like, guys, no. Theologically, there's just some things that I just can't agree with. But yeah, they took their time and really prayed about it and thought through it well. And it allowed me to do the same thing and to really seek God and be like, okay, God, like, is this what you want? I'm going to keep moving forward, because I don't want to just stand around and wait all day long. I need to move and do work. But by the time that they'd offered me the position and I got to the church and started leading worship there, just in that whole process, it's been very affirming that this is where I needed to go. This is what God had for me. The church itself has been really encouraging to me and uplifting to what I'm doing. Yeah, it's just been very affirming that that this is what God had in store for this time.
I'm sure you're learning too about, kind of being able to have a little bit of different perspective about, your job, even if it is in the ministry. Again, sometimes it can just be a job for a season or whatever, like where you are now, even though it's, seems great and everything, it may not be forever.
Yeah.
And, having gone through it that one time, if it turns out, God calls you somewhere else, or we decide to go in a different direction or whatever, like it's God's will, hopefully, and now that you've seen that once, to be able to, in the future, when if it happens again, or whether, you decide to leave, knowing that God's got a plan in it. And also I wonder and ask, like, you probably are seeing things, you're being able to see, how church goes, how it can in a different way than what we're used to.
Yeah.
Being
on the staff side of things, it kind of, I don't know about, I mean, you didn't necessarily grow up going to church all too often or hardly at all, but for the person like myself who's grown up in the church, there's this kind of glamorous thing of like, oh, the church is wonderful and they're kind of perfect. They're the pastors. Like there's this level of expectation that now being on the inside, it's like, it's not perfect. It's not like, people will make mistakes. You will be offended. You will be hurt by whatever, because we as humans are imperfect people. We are sinners. Just because we have the title of pastor or we have some kind of staffing position at a church doesn't mean that we're any better than anybody else. We are a regular person who's a regular sinner in need of a savior, and that's in Jesus Christ. And so it's helped me be a lot more humble in that respect, and also try to not over glorify other people at different churches at the same time.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was just, as you were talking, thinking about how when I left my job at one radio station, which was kind of like in my mind before I worked there, glorified as this big deal, and then went to another station and was able to see, still doing radio, but just doing it a little bit differently, and seeing, some things were better here, some things were better there and whatnot. And I'm sure you probably are experiencing that, and being able to also see in the middle where God is in all of it, things that are, God and aren't just like a church tradition or whatever, and are, an actual, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I can't think of a word of what I'm trying to say.
But I mean, we take things from all of our experiences, right? And we learn and we're soaking it in. And then when we move to a different position, like in going to this church now in Hanford, I've been able to learn from, my dad's mistakes and what my dad has done through what I was experiencing at my church in LA, through my church here in Fresno, to now where I'm at in Hanford, being able to take that, soak it in, and prayerfully consider how everything's being done, and then have the chance and opportunity to honor God in a different way at a different church and through different, processes, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you have any other parting words about your story or anything before we move on a little bit?
Yeah.
Yes, you do? Or no?
Yeah, no. I guess just in my story, again, it's been, I feel like the theme is God allowing, like, we go through life and we're learning. It's like riding a bike, right? You learn how to ride a bike with tricycles, and at some point your parents are going to take the wheels off, and then you have to try to ride the bike without the
Training wheels.
training wheels. I said tricycle, didn't I?
Yeah.
It's riding a bike with the training wheels. So you practice. At some point, the training wheels come off and you go, and you're probably going to fall because it's new to you. But then at some point you have your balance and you're able to go, but then you might fall again. And I think it's similar to that in our lives. Like we go so much, we're learning, going up, and then we might fail at a certain area or we might sin, but then God is still God and who he is. And so then we learn more and we keep going up and up and up, and we're constantly learning and learning and learning. And I feel like that was a lot of my life where God has taught me and given me a good foundation. I have some kind of fail or sin or something where God teaches me something new about him. I learn from that and keep moving forward. Learn from that, keep moving forward. Learn and keep moving forward. And it's just to be any kind of encouragement to other people. If you experience some kind of failure, don't let that get you down. Don't let that failure stop you from pursuing who God is, because just because you might fail doesn't mean that God loves you any less. It doesn't mean that you are any less of a human being or a person, because you are deeply loved and known by God, and he will help you through that and teach you through that, and continue to move you forward.
That is awesome. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So encouraging. Well, as I'm thinking about things to talk about, I literally just, my mind just, oh wait, nope, got it back. I was going to ask you, have you seen the movie American Gospel?
I haven't, no.
Okay, so have you seen any trailers or anything for it?
I haven't, no.
Okay, so last week, and this is homework for you and for you, the listener, go home. If you have Amazon Prime, I'm sure it's on something else as well. You need to rent American Gospel. It's on, I think on Amazon it was like $4.99 to rent. And side note, my cousin actually ends up being in the movie. Yes, he's sitting in the him and his wife are sitting in the pews as they're showing this pastor walk down the aisle past the pews, and they're sitting there in the pews.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny. But that's not the reason to go watch the movie. The reason you need to go watch this movie is they talk about how much of an influence the prosperity gospel has had, not only in this country, but now that it's kind of saturated America and it's kind of taken over as like the prominent gospel in this land, it's now starting to spread to other nations. If you're watching the Facebook feed, Kyle is showing you the poster for the movie American Gospel, and if you're listening on the audio, it's like an American flag looking thing, and it was hard for me to find on Amazon. You have to actually type out the entire thing, American Gospel, before it shows up for some reason. There's
American Gospel : Christ alone.
Yeah, you can find it just by searching American Gospel, though. It'll come up. But yes, it is called American Gospel, Christ alone. And their main point on the whole thing is that there is a sentiment in this country, which is nothing new, but it's just gotten to a point where it's prevalent. And I actually found out last night, I was telling somebody about this movie and they looked it up. Apparently, this is part one of a whole series of films that they're going to do, which is really cool. I'm excited about that because this was really well done. But if you're into people like Matt Chandler or Paul Washer or any of those like
Paul Walker?
No, not that different guy. Paul Washer. Like the John Pipers, those kind of people. If you're into those kind of people, which I'm not into all of them, I think they're great guys, but I just like, here's the deal with John Piper. Like, I think he's great, but sometimes I get bored of the way he talks. But anyway, it's like everything is like, but anyway, so I don't know. I feel like if he could, he would literally like soak up the words of the Bible, like out of the pages somehow in a weird, like supernatural thing. If he could, that doesn't make sense at all. But anyway, he's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. I'm just being stupid. Anyway, so they talk about how there's this prosperity gospel that it was like, if I could summarize the movie in one sentence, it would be the prosperity gospel was kind of annoying when it happened in America, but now it's gotten so widespread that it's actually permeating this country and spreading to places like Africa and Asia and even South America, Central and South America. And so they spend a good part of the movie talking about, what is the prosperity gospel, and basically it boils down to it's Jesus plus something. So Jesus plus, you got to have big old faith, and you'll have evidence of your faith and your salvation in the fact that you're going to be healed of every sickness that would ever come by you. And you know what? If you get sick, you must not be saved, because I never get sick. A guy literally said that in the movie. He never gets sick. And then like a second later, they show a clip where he said, I was sick as a dog, and blah, blah, blah.
Oh
So
my
like
gosh.
crazy walking contradictions. But the reason that I encourage you to go and watch this movie is because, it may wake you up to some of the things that are happening in your church, wherever you are, things that are not of the gospel, because the Bible gives one gospel, Jesus plus nothing.
Yeah.
A lot of these preachers that are out there, they will say that, you know what, you need to believe in Jesus. Obviously, he's like the main character in the Bible, man. Like, why wouldn't you believe in that guy? But also that's probably not enough. So you want to go ahead and make sure that you do all these good works, and make sure you're speaking in tongues. And if you're not very good at it, just make noises and move your tongue around, and you're probably saved. And do all these do good things. And oh, by the way, you got to give me your money, because when you give me your money, then we can do more ministry and more people can be healed. And if those people get healed, then you're going to, reap the benefits of that also, and you'll be healed. And it's just, that is not the gospel.
Yeah.
Actually, this will be a new thing I'll do with guests. Could you explain in the simplest way possible what the gospel is?
Yep. The gospel. We don't deserve life. Jesus loves us and dies so that way we can then be with him for all eternity in the new heaven and new earth, and saves us from an eternity of separation from God.
Also, he was resurrected on the third day.
And I was trying to go like simple, like,
yeah.
We don't deserve salvation. Jesus comes and dies and is resurrected from the dead for our salvation, so that way we can then be in eternity with him.
Good, you got it. So
did I pass?
You pass.
Cool. I still get my pastor card.
You still got your pastor card.
Cool.
So that's the gospel. Real simple.
Yeah.
There's really, and what frustrates me is there's no reason to complicate that. It's so simple. If you've never heard the gospel, there's no like, man, what do I have to do to be saved? People ask Jesus in that, what do I have to do? And Jesus said, well, you have to be born again. And he was like, what in the world are you talking about, man? I'm like Nicodemus. I got no idea what you're talking about, Jesus. And the thing is, Jesus already did everything that we needed for salvation on the cross. He died, lived a sinless life, died on the cross, was risen again 3 days later. And do you realize that like over 500 people saw him when he was alive again? Insane. Sometimes we think, and if you like listen in the media, they'll talk about like, well, it was only like his disciples. They probably just faked it, man. The Bible says that he was witnessed by over 500 people. Anyway, the gospel is real simple. Believe in Jesus, repent, believe, you'll be saved. You don't have to like give anybody money. You don't have to speak in tongues. You don't have to do anything. It's Jesus already paid the price.
Yeah.
So that's simply that. And if you like, are wanting more, you want to learn more about that, I suggest going and watching that movie, American Gospel in Christ Alone. It's really interesting. Shows, like I said, what the gospel is not, and then finishing up with what the gospel actually is. And it's Jesus plus nothing. I saw that you were going to mention something.
Yeah. So on this topic of the American dream and the prosperity gospel and what that does, I've been reading the book called Radical, Taking Back Your Faith from the American Dream by David Platt. So 10 out of 10 would recommend. I'm only a few chapters in, but it's an incredible story of just taking a look at what God is actually calling us as people to do, and what the misconceptions of the American dream kind of culture does. And one of these quotes that I was going to read essentially is talking about the idea of the hard work to earn a living and to succeed, and how that's good. and it's not a wrong thing, and even God like commends us to do all of that, to work hard for our keep. But it says, but underlying this American dream or dangerous assumption, if we're not cautious, we will unknowingly accept, and a deadly goal that if we are not careful, we will ultimately achieve. And that dangerous assumption we unknowingly accept in the American dream is that our greatest asset is our own ability. And yes, there's a lot of work that we personally need to do in order to make our living. But when it comes to our salvation and when it comes to the gospel, it's not us. It's not our ability. It's a free gift from God given to us that we get to accept. And when we admit that we have a problem and believe that Christ is that answer and choose to follow him for the rest of our lives and repent from our sins, that's where that free gift, that grace is in.
Yeah, and the sad thing is a lot of people have been deceived into this thinking that I got to do this, I got to do that, or you know what, I'm a good person. Why do bad things happen to good people? And one of the we'll kind of conclude on this. One of the most interesting quotes in this movie, in Christ Alone, is this pastor talking, and he said, you know, people will say one of the biggest questions about Christianity or whatever is that if God loves us so much, like why does he send people to hell? And two, or maybe like going along with that, why do bad things happen to good people? And he said the interesting thing about that question is that that's actually only ever happened once in human history, to Jesus Christ. Jesus says in the Bible, Jesus gets questioned, and they say like, "Good teacher," something, and he says, "Why do you call me good? There is no one good except for God. God is the only good one." So Jesus was the only actual good person who ever lived on the earth, and a really terrible thing happened to him. He was beaten, and he was torn, and he was hung on a cross for our sins. So when people say, "Why do bad things happen to good people?" they're completely disregarding the fact that no one is good.
Yeah.
And I think we're, like we said, especially in America, we're prone to relying on picking ourselves up by our own bootstraps.
Yeah.
And that's where our worth is. In the final segment of today's program, we are going to talk about what I hope is a football sensation.
I have full confidence.
Yeah, full confidence.
Full confidence.
Well, yesterday the Super Bowl concluded, and I still, like we talked about at the beginning of the program,
Man.
I cannot believe that fourth down.
Gosh, the fourth quarter, fourth down, Tom Brady.
Bottom of the ninth, and man, the coach was like on fire.
Like, literally.
I saw the steam coming out of his ears.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, and
then when the team came off the bench and dude.
Oh, and I forgot to mention the halftime show.
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe the surprise in the middle when Maroon 5 was doing the thing, and then
they were
Jackson
singing that.
5 came up.
Yeah, bro.
But anyway, so
it was like a hologram.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
And I love the the Budweiser commercial was hilarious. Man.
They had the horse.
Yeah, the horse and
classic.
the frogs were doing the thing. So it was so cool. But anyway, now this coming Saturday, actually.
This Saturday, right?
Yeah, this Saturday, the AAF, the Alliance of American Football. Is starting, and as I'm speaking, I realize I should have had this up already.
Essentially, the Alliance of American Football. If you guys haven't been listening to the Arnett show like I have, then you need to go back and stay in touch, because Aaron has given us updates over the last 14 episodes, and this would be the 15th. But it's because of this show that I've piqued my interest in the Alliance of American Football. There is a series. There's 8 teams from across the nation, from different cities and different states, that are competing for a championship title at the end of a 10-week long season. The 8 teams are. You want to read the
Arizona Hotshots?
Arizona Hotshots,
which is like a firefighter themed sort of thing.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Legends. The Birmingham Iron.
The Memphis Express.
That's
That's like my least favorite. Memphis Express. Whoa.
I don't, we'll pause right there for a second. I don't like sports team names that are, I don't know what kind of word would you say that is express? Like, it's not, it's not
like
like
an adjective.
yeah, it's not the tiger. It's not like the Tigers. Like we're a bunch of like
Yeah.
one thing. It's like we're an idea.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Like
think.
Birmingham Iron. It's also an idea.
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
legends.
it is a noun, but it could be like, why not like Birmingham Blacksmiths?
That's a good one.
That would have been a lot better. Legends. So Atlanta Legends are the Legends, and then so Orlando Apollos.
Apollo. I can't even say it right.
Apollos. I wonder if people who speak Spanish think that it says Orlando Apoyos. They're like chickens.
Stop. That'd be so good.
Yeah. Salt Lake Stallions. Good job on the alliteration.
Salt Lake Stallions.
San Antonio Commanders.
They're
going with like the Alamo theme type thing. And then last but not least, the San Diego Fleet. And again, that's another one where like I get it, but it's a singular. I think that's what that's what gets me. Well, it means fleet is like a
plural of ships.
Right. But the word itself like doesn't have a it's one fleet.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Like it's one thing. That's what gets me. I feel like they could have said, and it would have been better for alliteration, San Diego ships.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been as cool.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't have been as cool.
But I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know if that's you. But I'm excited for this because there was a league. I don't know if you remember this. I want to say it was the early. I want to say it was like somewhere between 2010 and 2013 ish. There was another league that tried to do this, and their whole thing was that we're not going to go super big. We're going to play in like AAA baseball stadiums and that kind of stuff. And they actually had a season, and then they kind of just like folded after that. And it seemed like they were doing it the right way. Like they weren't spending a ton of money. Yeah. They were trying to like feed into the NFL. But I think at the time, the NFL was still popular enough. It was like before the Kaepernick kneeling thing and all that. Like the mood of the football time wasn't there, and it didn't survive. So I'm hoping with this one, with the Alliance of American Football, that it actually works.
Yeah. I'm really hopeful, and it could be because I'm a dirty hipster and I'm really into the things that aren't mainstream. Mm-hmm. And this definitely isn't mainstream, although it's being televised on CBS, which I'm pretty excited about. I'm hopeful that it'll be another way for people to enjoy football, for the guys, the athletes who are incredible athletes who didn't necessarily get drafted straight out of college, to be able to still play, stay in shape, be used to the game still. And then for the NFL themselves, as like you were talking about this a few episodes ago, as it being like a feeder league. Mm-hmm. Essentially, the AAA of NFL would be the AAF. And it'd be a way for these guys to stay safe, to not get as many concussions, and then jump up into the big boys and get paid millions and millions of dollars.
I think that the way that this survives as a continuing thing is they have a great first season, good players, which I'm sure they have a ton of, good action. They bring in the new rules. Like I know one of the things that they're not doing for sure is kickoffs. There's no kickoffs. I think I was reading that they're going to start, each team just starts on their own
25.
25. Okay. Yeah. I would love to see an innovation to overtime. I don't know if they've done anything with that so far.
Yeah.
But I'm so done with the current overtime rules in football.
It was really frustrating because I was watching the New England and Kansas City game. Mm-hmm. I would have loved to have seen the Kansas City and the Rams Super Bowl. That would have been so fun just for the story. But I was so frustrated because I was like, I felt like Mahomes could have had a chance.
Mahomes
could have definitely had a chance had they gotten the ball. They probably, maybe not, I don't know. But it was just first one to score, and it's at that point, it's whoever wins the toss essentially can win the game. That was very frustrating for me.
I think what they should do in overtime is get rid of the game clock at all and just do a matching thing. So if I go down, I score a touchdown, we'll still have play clock. So you still have only the 40 seconds or whatever till the next play starts. But get rid of like the total game clock. So you just play an overtime period. and you do matching. So if I go score a touchdown, you got to come back and score a touchdown. If you do, awesome. If not, that's it.
That's it. That's the game.
And if there'd be no incentive for you to score a field goal. It'd be funny if a team did that and they forgot that they had to score. But yeah. So if the AAF can accomplish that this season, I think what keeps it around, and this will help for the other one as well, is the XFL has to come along. They're coming in 2020 next year. The XFL has to do the same thing, and then I think the following year or years to come, if both leagues are drawing enough attention, then they start to talk about a merger or at least a championship game between the two leagues.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps it alive, because that's what happened with the NFL.
Yeah.
You had the NFL and you had the AFL, and they were both producing the same standard of play. They were both pretty popular. And then this rivalry thing kind of happened. And they said, you know what? You think you're better than us? Well, after our championship game, we're going to do one big championship game with you. And that's what has become the NFL as we know it today.
Well, and I was looking at, they don't have all of the rules posted for the AAF or the XFL. I did my research, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. They don't have all the rules posted or easily accessible, but in some of their explanation videos, they have just minor details. So one is a shorter play clock. So instead of the 35 or 40 seconds that the NFL has, I think the AAF is 30 seconds and the XFL is going to be 25. So it's going to speed up how quick these guys are making the plays, getting to the ball, and actually, doing the sports ball. And then, no kickoff on either side for XFL or AAF. And so it'll be really interesting to see the pace of the game change. And so if the other rules are somewhat similar, then I could see that happening, where the merger happens.
One thing that I was kind of disappointed about in researching the XFL is I found out that they were toying with the idea of you could do 2 forward passes as long as you were behind the line of scrimmage.
Really?
And even though I think that's interesting and that's great, if they ever want to become mainstream and feed into the NFL, I think having plays rules like that is going to keep them from doing that, because then it kind of becomes a different sport.
Yeah.
There's a fine line you can't cross, I think.
Yeah.
But stuff like overtime rules, I think you could definitely mess with that. And
well, if you're listening to this podcast, and Aaron, this is your show, so stop me if you want to, or just edit this out. I would suggest picking a team. Just picking a team, doesn't matter. They're all new, and then just rooting for them. Maybe get a hat if you want. I'm going to try to get a hat. I'm trying to pick a team right now. I'm between the San Diego Fleet and the Arizona Hotshots, just because I like the logo of the Hotshots. And San Diego, it'd be really cool to see something from Southern California actually win. That'd be neat.
If you're too lazy to look up the logos for the Alliance of American Football, I'll just describe them to you real quick. Arizona Hotshots, it looks like your typical firefighting companies logo. Atlanta Legends is a super cool crown that's purple and gold.
That's pretty cool.
Birmingham Iron, lamest logo in
the
Alliance. It's an oval with a B.
That's so bad.
Memphis Express, actually pretty cool. See, I really like.
It looks cool. It's just a dumb name.
It's a dumb name. It's a really cool looking E, and there's a jet flying through the middle of it. It's really cool. Then Orlando Apollos. I feel like I would have liked the spaceship better, but this is the old Greek god or whatever Apollo. Yeah. Salt Lake Stallions. It looks like a really cool horse that could maybe fly. San Antonio Commanders. It's a picture of the Alamo with a sword poking through it. And then the San Diego Fleet is a ship.
Giant battleship.
Yeah, giant battleship from Head On that, I don't know, it's kind of
intimidating.
It is, but also because of the holes for the anchor on the front of the ship, the way they've done it, it almost kind of looks like a weird pig. I don't know if you're catching that. It looks like the nose holes.
Just imagine a big blow up ship and then the team running at it. That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
That'd be neat.
It would be neat. Well, I believe that is about all the time we have left for today, unless you have something shocking to tell my audience.
Nope.
All right. So that is all the time we have for today.
That's all I got.
I want to thank you, Kyle, for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aaron, for letting me come on here.
It was so fun to have you on the show, and thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys if you're on Facebook Live for watching. And even if you're not on Facebook Live, for watching it later on as you can. Of course, we are on Twitter at The Arnett Show. I'm on Twitter at Real Aaron Arnett. Don't believe the fakers.
Don't believe the fake one.
And we're at thearnettshow.com. By the way, if you'd like to become a patron of the program, you don't have to do any fancy stuff other than you go to thearnettshow.com. Look at the little thing up at the top that says become a patron. Click on that. You'll see a cute video for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the Super Bowl yesterday and that your team won. I know that mine, well, I don't want to talk about it. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you for listening to The Arnett Show. I'm Aaron Arnett. Play the bell, Jimmy. So, if you're still here on the Facebook video, are you impressed by the way that I have to do all that music stuff?
Yeah, I'm actually really enjoying what's happening right now. The fact you can do this live. He's got this cool app doohickey thing where you just press buttons and you got the sounds and the music, and
yeah, it's pretty neat. And I can even let's see, I'm gonna stop my little recording on the actual podcast thing real quick. This is like an extra bonus minute or two. Go away, I don't like you. Okay, here we go. Okay, here's
how much of this do you edit? Or do you not edit?
It depends. Like if it's weird. I don't know what that means. It depends. If there's, since I started, since I got this set up, where I'm like doing the music live and all that, I don't really edit a lot of it. I'll edit it for like quality, as like the audio quality.
Or if you don't want people to hear octopuses again.
Yeah, stuff like that.
You can cut that out, by the way.
I won't. But I do that. Before I was doing a lot of editing because I was just doing the show and then adding all the elements back into it.
Yeah.
And that would take me like another hour beyond the recording of the show to edit it. So yeah, I mean, like right here on Facebook, we got breaking news.
Breaking news. We are the news and it's breaking.
This is my favorite part.
That's me playing
the breaking news is that I'm not sure if you guys know this, but we talked about it on the podcast, but the Super Bowl hasn't even happened yet.
Not even yet.
Psych! We got you. And see, if you're not watching the Facebook video, you're not even gonna know.
You're not gonna know anything.
It's crazy.
By the way, for those of you that are watching or not watching and just kind of listening to this, I just want to publicly affirm the work Aaron's been doing. I've listened to every single episode, and if you start from episode 1 to this one, the quality change is incredible, and it's just kind of fun to see how this show progresses. So I just want to affirm you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our Facebook viewers before we cut it off?
The Facebook viewers, subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Go follow on the YouTubes.
The YouTube is fun. I made a video the other day I recorded a video of me flying my little RC plane, but I haven't edited it yet.
I wanna watch that.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
And actually today I flew it earlier this morning, and I was able to land it for real finally.
Yeah.
It's not really, it doesn't have wheels that are really made to land. They're more just like for looks and protecting the propeller for when it hits the ground and flips over. They actually do a really good job of that. But
that's good.
I actually landed it today, so
hey,
that was cool. So I'll get the video of that up.
I will
someday.
say this though, if you haven't listened to the episode with Aaron Abadia, I don't believe that's his real voice. So I was listening to it and I was like, dang, that dude's voice is so good. I was like, that can't be a 20-something-year-old dude. He's in his 20s, right?
Yeah, he is. I don't believe that. He's actually probably your age.
26?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't believe that at all. His voice is way too good.
Yeah, because I was 21 when he got hired.
And he was 18.
At 18, yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I was listening to that and I was like, no way.
Yeah, he is. And everybody tells me that every time and anytime I've ever like mentioned the name or, I've talked about, I was hanging out with Aaron, whatever, they're always like, I thought that was an 80-year-old
Oh,
man.
seriously. As soon as his voice came on, I was like, how does Aaron know this like old guy, and why would he want to like be on his show?
No, yeah, you see if you're a patron, you can see the video recordings of the show. This is a special like insight to what you could be getting on YouTube right here on Facebook. But yeah, it's so you can see him in his little lair, and he certainly is a 26-year-old man. Anything else, sir?
That was about it. I just don't believe Aaron Abadia's voice.
Yeah, he is. Check it out. That's episode 13 of the program. You're a bigger fan of the show than I am. Thank you so much for watching and listening. This episode that was just recorded today. And there was stuff happening on here, and it didn't load up. It didn't pop up.
Ah,
dang.
Sorry, everybody that like said stuff.
Yeah, we didn't know the comments didn't refresh. So sorry about that. Let's do some creds right now just for people.
Credits.
Rebecca, thank you so much.
Number one in my heart.
Yes, loved the tamales. So good. Allison, hi, good to see you. Brian, thank you for watching. Brian's like the only guy. Did you ever know who Huell Hauser was?
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh. I'm Huell Hauser. This is for Brian. We are here recording on the Arnett show. I'll have to show you a video of Huell Hauser. So Huell Hauser was this guy who did this show called California's Gold on PBS.
I've heard of this
for years.
I have heard of this. I don't know who it is, but
it's splendid. So thank you so much for watching, Brian. My Uncle Mickey watched. Thank you, Mickey. Uncle Mickey. It was actually Uncle Mickey's son who was in the American Gospel movie.
Was it?
Brian, I washed my cast iron correctly. Now you're forever in my head when it's dirty.
Well done.
I'm so glad that you're doing that. That's so great. I'm gonna like that right now. Boom. Awesome. My mom watched. If you're watching, can you see us? Normally, yes, but for some reason it didn't work today. Thank you, Brian. Didn't we see it in Utah? You see, my mom was talking. That's talking about the Pirates of Penzance we saw in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
And my Aunt Beth is also here. Thank you guys for watching.
Thanks, Aunt Beth.
We are about to leave, and I would just like to say we got 13 comments and 4 laughing faces and thumbs. So this was a huge waste of time.